Hey everyone, and welcome to this portrait painting tutorial. Today we are going to paint this beautiful lady with watercolors and color pencils. I'm going to use the Komorebi watercolors again because they're just very useful in my opinion, and we're going to use Polychromos color pencils in the end, maybe just a little bit. We will see how far we will come with watercolors. And I would say let's start. I'm going to mix a basic skin tone first, and I'm using yellow ochre and red ochre and a little bit of crimson, and I'm going to use the Polina Bright brush number 2, but you can use any large brush that you feel comfortable with. Watercolors, so I just like these brushes because they're very long and they give me control, but feel free to use any other brush that you like more or that is maybe less expensive. So since she has this brown hair, we can pretty much fill in the entire area with this skin tone. So we will go over the face area, over the hair area anyways with a darker color, so we don't really pay much attention to keeping all the skin colors only in the skin areas. So here, of course, at the border of the face, we need to be a little bit more careful when we fill that out. And I'm letting some areas here open, like some little spots, so that we keep this beautiful watercolory effect. So I'm going to mix a little bit crimson into my skin colors as well. And I also want to directly in the beginning add a couple of these watercolor like dripping effects. So what I'm going to do is just I'm using more water than I would normally do, and then I'm just tilting the paper here and hoping that I don't drip anything on my pants, but I already did, of course. That was to be expected. So another one, and I think I will include a little bit of metallic bronze here because I think this fits well to the overall color scheme. This looks really nice, so this is good. I will leave it like that, and I will just add a little bit of the bronze here in her skin as well. And of course in the hair area it will be amazing if we had some of these shimmering metallic effects coming through, so that's always a good thing. So I'm just making some interesting brush strokes, at least I'm trying to do that. And now we can add a little bit of rouge to her cheeks. So I'm just using crimson red here, and I'm using water, and I'm just dipping it into the wet paint on the face. I'm taking the same red and I'm following the little shadow here below the hair. And what we also need is a little bit of green and blue in her skin. So I'm mixing azurite blue and a little bit of peak green, just a tiny bit, and then I'm going over the light skin tone, and now with a wet brush carefully blending these green tones into the brown tones. We can use a little bit of this green tone here below the chest bone, I suppose, and here on her arm, a little bit here, and on her neck we need this blue tone too. So this just looks so much more natural and already has a very realistic feel, in my opinion. So we have here this watercolor edge. I don't want it to dry this way, so I'm just going over it with a wet brush, and hopefully it will dry differently. And I'm also going to use a little bit of the green on her forehead and here in the nose area. So I do see those colors in my reference photo, but I just exaggerate them so that it looks better in the painting. It is almost impossible to paint something like the photograph, and also why would you want to do it? You already have the photograph, so exaggerating colors is a good way to make something really lively and just looks better overall, in my opinion. So I really like that already. I'm going to make something for her hair. Maybe I can give her like a little bit of blue in her hair, but I'm going to start with brown and Payne's gray, and maybe the hair area is still a little bit wet. This would be good, because then we can make some lovely abstract textures here. So we don't want the hair to bleed into the skin tone, so I'm only working on it like in the upper area of the hair. If I'm going too close to the face, it would bleed into this face, and we don't want that. So here in the neck area, it also bleeds into the neck area. It's a little bit too much, but here again we need a transition between the hair and the neck, so it can bleed a little bit here, but not too much. Her hair is actually brown, but I really like the Payne's gray, bluish gray color, so I just went with that. So you don't have to always use the exact same colors that you see in the reference photo. So, and here I'm just adding some individual hair lashes, and they bleed out into the hair, and then we have some, hopefully some interesting textures here. We can also use a little bit of the metallic green maybe, and maybe metallic silver too. Let's see how that looks. So I'm just trying to get as much of the metallic silver on my brush, and then I'm dipping the brush into the hair portion. And let's do the same with silver. Oh, don't bleed into the skin tone, please. And I think I will also add a little bit of black And that's it. I'm going to let that dry, and I will use my hair dryer so that I don't have to wait like an hour. Okay, let's see here, it bleeds into the skin tone. So you have to watch your watercolor painting if you have some areas that are delicate and you don't want any color bleeding into these areas. So watch it while it dries so that you don't get any ugly surprises. We don't want that. Okay, let's continue with adding some more depth to the face. I'm going to use the Neptune brush number, I think it's 6. It's always hard to tell with those brushes if it's a 6 or a 9, so I think it's 6. And I'm going to use crimson, but this was way too much, so I'm just dipping a little bit of the red into the skin tone here, and I'm going to build up the cheek area. We can go over the eye as well, because this area is completely dark, and then we can go over those dark areas too. So I'm just looking where I can find more of this red in the face, and while I'm doing that, I'm also making sure that I blend the paint into the surrounding paint. Not everywhere, so I like to have some of these watercolor edges, but I don't want to have hard edges everywhere. So on most of the edges I try to blend them. Here for the nose, we need a little bit of the red too, and also a smaller brush. Let's try it with the Neptune brush number 4. Like that. And with the larger brush, I'm just going over the jaw again, to just prevent the watercolor to dry harsh. Here for the forehead area, I'm going to use red ochre. And I'm just going to fill that in. And also here along her jaw, everything needs to be a little bit darker, so you can just add red ochre there too. And I'm just reactivating the green here and working on the shadow of this bone. I'm treating the face and the neck area the same, and I'm working on both simultaneously so that the face isn't finished and the neck, or the face is finished and the neck looks completely unfinished. So I want to work on both at the same time. Here at the edges it needs to be darker, so let's use burnt sienna and a little bit of the Payne's Grey. Making sure to blend it in. And using a bit more green, peak green. for the cleavage here. And here around the bones we have a little bit more red shining through the skin. So I'm using the crimson red and orange and water so that it is not too extreme. And I'm adding a bit of the red here on the neck too, just to give the skin more like different shades and colors. Now I'm going to use a little bit more burnt sienna, and I'm adding a shadow to her jaw area. I'm blending this shadow carefully into the skin, and now I'm adding another layer of shadow on her eyes, because this part of the face is the darkest, also filling in the eyebrows already, blending the upper part of the shadow a little bit into the watercolor. Then we have a bit of red where the hair borders on the skin tone. And the ear, of course, is a little bit red and orange. So don't forget to paint the ear. I'm going to blend this shadow here better. And now I will have to use the hairdryer and just dry this part, just dry the skin tone though, so that I can continue building up layers. Now for her nose, I'm just using the same red tone that I have already mixed, and I'm adding a subtle shadow here on the nose tip. With a little bit of blue. And adding a bit of green as well. Then we have to pay attention here to really get the shape right around the nostril. And here with the wet brush, I'm just blending the paint into the surrounding color. So I would give the whole face another layer of just paint, because it is very light. So I think I will just use a brown tone here, and I'm going to start here And I will leave the highlights untouched so that we have some nice highlights in the skin. So at the nose, this can all be dark. Like that. And here I will add a little bit of peak green to the paint. So that we have some variation in this coat of darker watercolors. And I'm adding this additional layer because it is super easy to paint relatively light, and then when you compare your reference photo with your artwork in the end, you see that your artwork, or at least I have it, that it looks super light, it's way too light, and it really happens so often to me that when I think it's good, I'm just adding another layer to just give it more depth. And this looks very strong now, but when it's dried, it will just lose a lot of the color again. So I'm just adding a little bit of green into the skin tone, and just working here on the edges like that. Here behind the ear we have a shadow as well, so I'm using Payne's Gray and Brown. Just adding the little shadow here. It's not dark enough, so we have to wait until that is dried and add another layer there. So while this is drying, I see that we have the color drying ugly on the nose area. So I'm just using a wet brush and just correct this area here. And now I'm going to use my hairdryer again. So you see how light everything dried, and it now comes closer to the actual skin color of the reference. So I'm much happier with the color values now. And I'm going to proceed with the eyes and all the darker parts too. So let's fill in the eyes first. And the eyebrows too. And also the nostrils. So we can use a little bit more paint here. It is supposed to be darker, so we don't need that much water. It should be pure paint, almost pure paint. For the lashes as well. And now here we can just use a black and Payne's Gray in the eyeshadow part. It can bleed into the moist watercolor. So for the eyebrows, I want to be a bit more careful. So I'm blending the black here, or the Payne's Gray, a little bit more. And now I'm going to add the lips, and for that I just use Carmine. This is a good color for the lips. carmine and just carmine at first, and then I will darken it. So for the lips, we want to make sure that we get the exact shape and we get it right so that they don't look weird. And I'm also trying to make a soft edge. However, this is a little bit difficult with watercolors, but I'm just a little bit. Okay, so then I'm adding orange to my brush, and with almost the same color, I'm going over the nostril, because here are like super tiny shadows beneath the nostril and just around the nose. So, and since I'm having this red on my brush, I just can add them, so I don't have to switch the colors all the time. Okay, now I'm going to use green again. So I'm mixing peak green and a little bit of azurite blue. And I will just add a little shadow here along the nose and beneath the eye. Like that. And then here at the edges of the forehead, we have this kind of shadow too. Okay, now I just add all those little shadows here on her neck and the cleavage, so that we have a similar stage on each part of the skin area. Also, we need a shadow here at the jaw again, because the shadow I did was way too light and we need it to be way darker. Like this. Then here along the bones, of course, we have shadows. And I'm just adding a little bit of the brown into the jaw shadow again. And I'm also darkening the shadow below the ear with burnt umber. So this should work out. And here for the eyes, I'm also going to add a little bit of the burnt umber. the red beneath the nose. And just going over the contour of the mouth, be like this. And then we have a shadow in the upper lip. And for that I'm just using Payne's Gray. And here also I'm just checking with my reference photo and just comparing where this little dark shadow is located. Like that. Also trying to blend the shadow a little bit into the upper lip so that it doesn't look so harsh. And now I'm going to continue with her garment. I think I will just work with silver first and just filling in the garment with a layer of silver. This is the great thing about the Komorebi watercolors, is that they have so many metallic paint, and I really just love metallic paint, just the glittering paint. It's so beautiful. And yeah, I just really like metallic and glittering paint in general, I guess. Okay, so I'm adding also a little bit of green and ultramarine blue here to the garment, and maybe a little bit of like brown, because it is beige and I wanna render this beige tone here. I think this is okay, this works. I think I will add a little dripping effect here, like that. And now everything has to dry again. Now let's switch to color pencils. Everything looks really nice already. I like the depth and all the abstractions. The skin colors are great, but we still have some really like loose shapes that don't really fit to the portrait. So I'm trying to correct them now with the Polychromos color pencils. This is raw umber, and the first thing that I'm going to do is just working on the shape of the portrait. So I just tried to give the nose a more tidy contour, and the same with the forehead, and just generally the right side of the face. And also, like, we have a lot of shadows that are not dark enough, so I'm going to darken them a little bit more, especially here around the eyes. Here's like a little shadow directly beneath the lashes, and I will use a darker color for this. I'm just using, I think it's black, just black, and I'm drawing over the eyelashes so that they're just more black. And for the eyebrows, I'm going to use a darker color. Let's try burnt sienna. So I want to work on the eyeshadow. So for that I don't have the exact color, so I'm just using violet here. And here I need to apply a little bit more pressure, and I'm just enlarging the eyeshadow. Then I'm going over it with burnt sienna so that we have hopefully the right color. Then to blend that in, I will try this one, just gray. And I think this is the right color here. Venetian red. So they always have to be super sharp for those small details. So this is why I'm sharpening them all the time. Adding the shadow here around the eye, and then I will use medium flash to blend the Venetian red into the skin tone. So just continuously getting lighter here, and then to blend that in I will use the Ochre Brulee from Caran d'Ache. This is a wax-based pencil, and this will blend it in perfectly into the watercolor. And now for the nose, I want to work on the nostril first. So I'm using red. And medium flash. And with the medium flash, I'm just working on the shape of her nose wing. So this way we get really good control over shaping the nose. Here's like a little shadow, and it goes until to the tip of the nose, where it gets smaller though. And then beneath the nose we have a small pinkish shadow as well. And then we need some blue, and I'm just using this blue tone. The problem is this is a watercolor pencil. When I go over the pencil again with water, it will just completely dissolve. So I mustn't do that, because I don't need more watercolor on the face. So with the blue, I'm just carefully adding a little shadow here. It's a little bit extreme though, so I will just have to add the blue here everywhere. Maybe I'm trying this olive green. Maybe that is a little bit better, because we do have greens and blues here in the skin tone around the nose. So like that. And then here's like this little shadow, and there is a small fine white line between the wings of the nose and this shadow. So it's pretty difficult to draw actually. So then we have a darker shadow here along the cheeks, and I'm only drawing this very, very carefully, because I don't want to add that much color pencil to the portrait portion because I really like the watercolor edges. So I'm just really carefully adding this shadow there. Then we also have a little bit of green. And I'm just going over it with the blue just to blend it in a bit. And here again, here too, at the chin. And I will also use the raw umber to darken the jaw shadow because this is not dark enough. And now I will use the ochre, the burnt ochre, for blending in the color pencil pigments that I just added here around the nose. This way we get a good transition between the pigments and the watercolor. So this should really look smooth once I've added the Caran d'Ache pencil, the luminance pencil. Here we have like a little tiny highlight, tip of the nose, and you see how beautifully the pigments blended into the watercolor, so this really worked out well. Just going over the green too, and now we also don't have any, almost no grain here, which is super good. Going over the chin as well. And maybe with, what's this? Caput Mortuum, I think. Just going over the eyeshadow area again. If you move your pencil with those circular movements around, you will get a very even coverage of the paper. And this is very useful if you want to have really the smooth skin tone effect with watercolors. So I'm going to add a shadow here. This is just black, and then I'm using just red and go over the shadow again. And to make the lips a little bit more natural so that they don't look as if we have just like glued them on top, I will use this warm gray number, what is it, 2, and just add some little shadows here around the lips and the corners of the mouth. This just make it look more natural. We can also use the gray here for the nose. Just making this cheek area maybe a tad darker, a tad more intense. It's always good to really carefully build up the depth of a portrait instead of using like color pencil super strongly in the beginning, and then you can't make much decisions because you have to then go with the like color pencils all the way. But here I really try to only cover certain areas of this portrait to still preserve areas of the watercolor. So this is light magenta, and I will just add this to the cheek area. And I will use this gray again. This is also very natural gray, and many skin tones look rather gray, so it's helpful. Okay, now we have to go over everything again with the luminance pencil here. And here I need to intensify the like little shadow close to the nose wings. And I will also darken the lashes and the makeup here around the eyes. You can also go along the borders of the lips with the luminance pencil. This way you can kind of get a smoother edge, which is useful. So I like everything, but here, like this shadow looks rather weird. And again, using the luminance pencil, just go over the nose area and over the shadow again to just smooth it out. You can also add a little bit of blue here and there on the skin, just to make it more realistic, more lively. I'm going to use this pink here, or maybe orange. I think orange fits better. Just to enhance the cheek area. So we need to be careful. Don't want to have pigments or rush or rough pencil strokes here. It should all look very like smooth and natural. So I really like it already. Maybe I will just use the red and just add a little bit of, make it just this area here a little bit darker. So we still have some of those harsh watercolor edges, which I think look really beautiful, but we also have the smoothness of the color pencil. So I really like this combination a lot. And just continuing here a little bit with the contours of the rest of the portrait. Maybe also the forehead needs a contour, I think. A sharper contour. This looks good. And I think the lip is a little bit larger, so on the lips and maybe just tiny details here and there to just make some of the lines clearer and less wobbly. Here, for example, the eyelid is a little bit darker there, and so the pencil needs to be really, really sharp. So this is black dust. I'm going to really carefully work on the contour of the portrait. So like that. And here with the luminance pens, I just smooth it out a bit. And here, just correcting the shape of the lip. And purple. This looks interesting with the purple, actually. Yeah, I think this is really nice. Maybe just a tiny bit, especially like in the end shape, I can add like tons of little details and little corrections. This is like this thing that takes me the longest. Maybe here, like a tiny bit of orange. Yeah, I think the orange is really good here in this area. Okay, I really like this portrait already. So here the shadow that we just painted, we can just intensify it a little bit, and it just makes it just gives the portrait so much more life. It looks so much better. just if you intensify some areas of the painting. Also, just when we add a little bit of purple, just gives it kind of a surreal, even like different from realism, but really interesting like feel. I really like it. So here in the forehead, just add the purple to the eyebrows. And a little bit to her jaw. So you can basically use the method for the whole drawing and add the color pencils everywhere. I'm a little bit lazy today. I don't want to fill in everything with color pencils. Just some parts of the drawing. Where's my orange? Where did it go? Of course it went below my drawing pad. Where else could it be? It is important that you have like the colors that you have in the face also in other parts of the skin area. And I'm switching between the different skin tones here, or just the different colors, to mimic the variations that we can see in the face. I'm also just realizing that I want a little bit of blending here. That looks better, I think. And then I'm using white, just go over the burnt sienna luminance pencil, so then we can blend in the burnt sienna luminance pencil into the white, which is useful. Okay, so back to the darker tones, burnt sienna from Polychromos. Olive green. So I think this is nice. I will just use the black to work on the contour of the neck. And I think we can continue with the rest of the portrait. Let's add some of the details first. So I'm going to start with the jewelry. I will use Payne's Gray and a different brush. So this is just, it's probably an oil painting brush, I'm not sure. Use Payne's Gray and burnt sienna, and I will try to make this earring here. So with jewelry, it's actually relatively simple to paint it, because the only thing you have to do is to always leave out spots for the highlights. Jewelry, gold, silver, diamonds, stuff like this, like that, they always have super dark shadows and contrasts, and then there are highlights, so there's nothing in between almost. So it's really easy because you don't have to paint transitions or gradients, you just basically have to paint dark and leave out the whites and maybe some midtones. So, and because it's like such a huge contrast, I'm only working with Payne's Gray and brown, and this way I have rather dark application of paint here. and that's it. No, there's like a long part that belongs to the earring, and I will just paint this with silver. And I will try if I can add a highlight here on the ring with silver. That would be good. So like that. Now, I will just add all those little tiny, what is it, like stones or pearls on her dress. So it's basically just adding little dots here and following the pattern. It's not much to it. So maybe I will do one thing first. We have like some areas that are darker, so I might just darken those areas, and then I will add those small stones on top of them. Now I'm going to add a little bit of gouache here on, like, for the highlights of the jewelry. This way we get a convincing look, should get a convincing look at least. So here are a couple of highlights. Gouache isn't that opaque as you would think, so it's good to not use too much water when you use it, and if you want it to be opaque, if you want to add highlights. So I try to use it as pure as possible, because when it's dried it loses like half of its opacity, which is super annoying. I'm just adding a couple of these highlights here and there. And here also on the earring. I think this looks good. I think here, this whole part needs to be lighter actually. And now we can proceed with her hair. This will be exciting. So I'm going to use the Polina Bright brush number 2. I'm just mixing brown and Payne's gray, and the model has these beautiful, like Victorian era almost, like hairdo. It's so beautiful. So I'm going to indicate it just with a couple of simple brush strokes, so that we get like the fluidity and the dynamics of this beautiful, like romantic hairdo. Just trying to follow the knots of the hair in those different directions. And I'm trying to, like, I tilt the brush and then I let it loose, so that we have kind of these almost individual hair, this hair effect here. Now I'm going a little bit darker, just adding another layer of hair. It's a little bit scary because, of course, I am afraid I'm touching the face area at one point, so it is scary. But hopefully I'm not going to ruin it. So I think I'll also add a little bit of the bronze here, or maybe no, maybe of the metallic purple. I think that would fit better. And just pure black, so that we have also a little bit of those bleeding effects again. So, and what I'm going to do now is just, I'm using this super small, like fine detail brush. And I'm just going to add some loose hair at the borders of the hairdo. Also here, of course, in the face area. And now, where the hair is so dark, I think I will also darken the dress area a bit. So just making those little sections here darker. I have to be careful because they will get reactivated and then I just get a smudge, so I don't have to use so much water or just really like go fast over this area. So I'm just using a little bit of brown, add some individual hair strands. And I'm going to go over the borders of the face too, like the borders of the hair where it touches the face, so that we get a contrast like to the skin area that's a little bit more like popping out and distinguishable from the skin. Maybe I'm just darken the shadow here a little bit. Now where the hair is so dark, I can also just see where my color values are maybe a little bit too light. So I'm just adding some shadows to the skin area here. Yeah, I think this is really nice. I think I will add a bit of golden drops on the painting. I want to have the hair a little bit kind of like dynamically splashing into the white. So I'm going to test this out now. Maybe like that. Oh, it flows. It flows. Okay, if it stopped there, then it's good. Otherwise, we have a problem. So I think I will place it on the floor. So let's make this. Well, it's a little bit chaotic, so I'm going to use gold or metallic bronze now actually. Just add a couple of splashes. Okay, this was wild. But it's beautiful, I like it. I really like it. But I think I need blue. Somehow there is like a lack of blue in this painting, in my opinion. Let us add blue to the painting. So a little bit, just drip paint down. Blue is good. I think blue really balances it out. So I think this is a good decision. A little bit of blue here. And olive green, just for the skin again. So that we just have a little bit more color in this portrait, so that's not so super brownish, ochreish. I don't like if it's too muted. So I'm going to add a little bit of gold to the earrings. This is metallic yellow. It's not really gold, but it looks like a very light gold. Now I'm using metallic gold here. I think this was a bit too much. So that's it. I really like how it turned out, and I hope you like it too, and I hope you found it helpful. So if you did, let me know what you think about this tutorial, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!